viewers, and welcome to another episode of Lancer Custom Werks, where I will be discussing the various mech builds you could make and play with Lancer. Calendula is a freaking nightmare. Calendula, as an alt frame of Minotaur, is as beefy as it and also primarily prefers close to mid-range, but where Minotaur like to keep some distance, Calendula like to get real close, as it can shred anything too slow in range 3, automatically, with no once per round limit, and if enemies decided to gang up on it, it can just disappear from reality, and worse, it can perfectly isolate an enemy by bringing it into its reality. And if you have an ally that can also turn intangible, you can both now kick the shit out of it while its buddies can only stand back and watch. Its core power also lets you just send an ally and enemy into the Shadow Realm immediately, and it's one of the few efficient core power, so you can easily do this every goddamn scene. Worse, even if the hostile reached the Void Husk to get out, it also slows down any hostile close to it, so even if they get out, they still have the trouble of being very vulnerable at the moment. In the following 40 builds, as Calendula shares license with Minotaurs, it has plenty of stuffs from it and most are very useful, as Calendula wants to control enemies' movement and make them slow as much as Minotaur do. Viral Logic Suite, Aggressive System Sync, and Metafold Carver are being frequently found in many of the builds. Mesmer Charges and Interdiction Field are not utilized as often but still very useful. Law of Blades however is a bit awkward to use with Calendula, but can still be powerful in the right situation. As for the roles, most Calendula builds are Striker Controller. With how much Calendula loves being close to the hostile, Defender builds come at second, since Calendula is very good at isolating enemies, and there's also Artillery and Support builds but they are the minority of the builds. Anyway, let's get going with the Striker Controller first. Discombobulate is a Striker Controller Calendula centered around Spaceborne, specifically, Spaceborne 3 that makes it easier to slow anyone that gets punched by you.
In summary, Discombobulate.
Just get close with Pankrati, punch, hack with Scanner Swarm, and repeat. Send your target to the Shadow Realm if you feel like isolating them, get fast with both Skirmisher and Hunter, and just moves like a goddamn phantom, and if that's not enough, metafold your distance. Practically speaking, every single Striker Controller Calendula follows in the same formula of get close, get slow, and smash, and there's 1,000 ways to do that. Duelist of Intangibility is a Terashima Calendula that basically isolates enemies and have anime duel with them with JKII, which with Spaceborne 3, Interdiction Field, and Aggressive System Sync, could really make the duel very one-sided. As soon as you knock them onto the ground, it's game over. This is now an Ultra game is also another Terashima Calendula, one with TTT instead of Open Door. This actually brings in a question, is it worth it to have TTT with Calendula since it has innate shred trait anyway, but you also get 1 accuracy though, so maybe it works out. Either way, with Horo S1 and Metafold, your prey cannot run away from you fast enough. CIRICE is instead a half-morning cloak Calendula, with variable sword and of course, singularity motivator, so even if an enemy hurts it, it can just move faster, and with Kai-Bioplating, it can move anywhere. Also one funny thing with Hunter logic, you can use Terrify on a striker enemy and basically preventing them from doing anything to anyone, even moving towards the Void Husk because you are standing next to it, perfectly isolating them, and you can repeat as necessary. RAKSHASA Reviled is a Titanomachy Duelist SMN Calendula that wants to knock all its opponents prone, which means slowed, which also means shredded, allowing it to spam all its attacks without the defense in the way, and if you want to make it worse, you can grapple a prone target, preventing them from getting up, and have TSS2 to squeeze the life out of them. The Mech with no name is a Calendula that uses Interdiction Field to make anything close too slow, which with dual Gunslinger pistol and Vijaya rocket to utilize Stormbringer with to knock targets down, can get very painful very quickly. Also speed 6, so who care about being slowed, and with Hunter logic, you can easily isolate someone on the other side, plus with Exemplar, getting close just add more bonuses. Everyone is invited is an Drone Commander Calendula, basically, setting up all the drones and mine while intangible also makes them intangible, so when you execrate someone to the other sides at the right spot, they are going to be in a lot of pain. If that doesn't work, you have an Autostab Vanguard DSAS. Keep Away is a half-kobold Calendula that get extra sadistic with its invade options. Immolate causes enemies to be set on fire if they move towards the Void Husk, and if they reach it, Purifying Code will cause them to explode, and you still have the rest of your toys. Worse, if enemies try to kick your face in, you have a Vanguard shotgun which also trigger fold knife that might just let you move away in time. Spooky Dave with a shotgun is also another Vanguard Calendula, now with hyperdense armor, so enemy must get close to you to hurt you, or you could just Horo S1 them and overwatch them anyway. Also has skirmisher and burst jet to get to anywhere quickly. Hot code, fresh from the oven, is an Azura Heatfall Calendula. I think it's very easy to see where this is going. Just spam all the actions as much as you want and hack enemies to pieces with charged blades or invade, with RSU to cool down quickly. SCP-106 has breached containment, is a bristle crown swarm body brawler calendula. It should also be very easy to see where this is going. Just hug and explode or grind as needed, or execrate them to isolate them and make things infinitely worse for them, with no rescue coming. Orderly disappearance is a Titanomachy duelist infiltrator calendula that want to sneak through obstacle and then surprise their target by smashing them right into the floor, leaving them blind, impaired, and slowed. The rest, like Pepcock and Autopod, are really just bonus systems. Interdimensional Sucker Punch is a dual catalytic hammer calendula that like to get close with Pankrati, which by the way, slows anyone you charged at. Then you just politely dual cat hammer them, which chain into siege ram with Duelist. Then you can turn intangible, reload with Roland Chamber, and start punching your next target. Ferryman to the Reinforced Door is a calendula with Impaler, Webjaw, and Charged Stake, so it can make an enemy stay in the Shadow Realm by nailing them, possibly forever, and even outside of that, Vanguard Impaler can still be very painful. Behold the Seekomet appears is a Seekomet calendula. I'm not sure what else to expect from that name, but yes, once you isolate someone, or if you are surrounded by enemies, smash that big red button for a lot of murder. Lastly, there's Overpenetration for fun and profit, a thermal pistol spam calendula with Beckoner to gather up enemies or teleport closer, using the shredded condition to make the pistol a lot more effective, and dual hive drones for more cover and damage, and if you need even more damage, there's always Horo S1 plus Vanguard DSAS combo. And that's all on the Striker Controller Calendula, the most common of all Calendula builds because of how much Calendula likes enemies being real close to it, and its allies could easily take advantage of the situation, if Calendula didn't already kidnap its prey into another dimension. Like seriously, shred on nearby slowed enemies that doesn't have once per round limit is kinda ridiculous, so is having easy escape plan that always works. Next up, the Defender Controller. The Dark Energy Disc that will banish you to the Shadow Realm is a rather terrifying calendula that can pin down enemies with Ferrofluid Lance and Pinning Spire, keeping them in place while grinding them up with Swarm Body, perfectly distracting at least 2 enemies at once with impending death, plus all the invade systems that lets you control your enemies easily. I Like My Women Like I Like My Music, Heavy, and Metal, is an exemplar calendula, designed to keep someone in the other side way longer than they want to, which with Hunter logic, makes for a fun interaction of making them basically unable to move in any direction. Only problem is, why does this build had Fade Cloak when Calendula basically has it built in? Spooky Dave's Poltergeists and Panoplies is a rather defensive defender calendula that's a bit redundant that like to protect its allies with shield, and more shield instead of more murder, but it does have an exemplar to keep an enemy focused on it, and spotter to make its allies hit even more accurately. Great Magician Zelian is a calendula with Horo S2 to distract enemy fire, but mostly it's going to support with Grease Monkey, Black Thumb, Empath, Turret Drones, and even Anti-Linear Time, with Metafold Carver and Unhinged Chronology to bend both space and time. Plus, with how universal compatibility works, you get free power up every time you use your core power, which is every single scene. Making things disappear has never been easier. Psionic Commando is a very single calendula with a Croil rifle. Simply put down Wandering Nightmare, get in melee range, and keep use Beckoner or Croil rifle to get enemies into the pain zone, and there's the rest of the arsenal to make things even worse for the enemies. Finally, there's Take It Easy, an Azura exemplar calendula that like to kidnap people. Just toss low everywhere with Interdiction Field, Pankrati, Viral Logic, Void Husk, and even the basic Invade, and nobody can run away from you fast enough. Then you just isolate them and challenge them to a duel of their lifetime. Easy. Also, not oftenly mentioned, Duelist 2 has an option to just trip your enemies, making them prone and slowed. That's a very good option for calendula. And that's all on the Defender Controller calendula. With how good calendula is at isolating enemies and making things worse for those close to it, calendula is a surprisingly good defender even without sending things to the jail zone. Next up, the Artillery Controller. Ghost Recon is a super stacked warp rifle calendula with one trick. Did you know you can execrate your auto-loader drone? Now you have an auto-loader that's basically safe from anything that you can access whenever you need to. Any target you shoot will keep getting teleported away, and combine that with aggressive system sync, they are going to get cooked alive soon enough. you even have just enough heat cap to do an OC loop, just for more shot. There's also 2 Samuel 2215, which is, well, very fitting. Just keep firing that crackshot smart gun or Oracle with Hunter Lock for more damage and things will go down eventually. You could even immobilize or blind someone with CS3 before making them intangible, leaving them in there for at least 2 turns. There's one more artillery controller build, but it's basically another warp rifle Calendula. Artillery Calendula is definitely a bit weird, but with Grammaton Mantle, even if enemy gets close somehow, the Calendula can easily get away compared to other artillery frames, and with 8 goddamn base system points you can just do anything anyway. Lastly, there's the support controller. Isekai Bus, very fitting because Calendula loves to send things to another world anyway, is a Fomorian battle taxi Calendula that can basically run down anything with its warp hike. However, your riders won't turn intangible when you do, but if you have an opportunity to make a new shitty light novel Isekai protagonist, you can do so very quickly. Finally, for the last build of this episode, there's Hobo Jedi with a shotgun, a Calendula with Beckoner to gather up enemies around the Void Husk, and just keep blasting them apart with the Annihilator. Also has Blink Tunneler, Accelerate, Metafold, and Blink charges to basically move anything on the field with ease. Nobody can move if you demand it, but really, again, with 8 base system points Calendula can really just do anything it wants, including being a good support builds. And that's it for all 40 of the Calendula builds. I would like to once again thank all of my viewers who have submitted their builds for this episode. Calendula is a really interesting mech, built to isolate practically any enemies with ease, and there really is a lot you can do with that trick. Anyway, here's the topic for the next episode, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.